ये भाव Hare Krishna, anybody there? Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Oh, at last, somebody's there. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my best, Maharaj.
Oh, glories to Prabhupada. Obeisances to everybody, whoever's there. I'm not 100% sure if we're properly connected.
We can hear you, Maharaj.
You can hear me, but all I can see is a picture of Radha Damodar. Ah, there we go. Now I can see. Okay. Hare Krishna. Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka Prabhu, bless the Prabhupada. Any other devotees with us today, thank you for joining us on this auspicious occasion. We're at the end of the month of Kartik. Just a few days left, huh? I think Monday is the last. I don't know about it in the Philippines, but in France, Monday is the last day. So we've got 2 or 3 days remaining of this auspicious month. So please set me free. Do you want me to just start, Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka Prabhu, or you want to say anything?
You just go straight away ahead, Maharaj.
Right away. Because I guess more devotees are watching on Facebook or come online later on, most likely. Maharaj. So we'll start with a look. We'll take it from viewing. Is it okay? Can you see? Okay, good. Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Utale Premate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Kinam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Utale Premate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kinam Namaste Bhagavate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sanyavadi Pastor Chadisha Taharine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sanyavadi Pastor Chadisha Taharine Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravata Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravata Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Oh Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha, Damodara Radha, Damodara Radhe, Radha Damodara Radha, Damodara Radhe. Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. And now we'll sing the verse number 7. If you have access on your computer or on the screen, or maybe you have a songbook or mobile or something. Verse number 7 of the Dāmodarāṣṭakam. And after that, we'll try to discuss a few of the points therein and their relevance to us. So I'll read, so as you're getting organized there, I'll read the translation. And as you probably know, this is a song or a poem, whatever, compiled by Satyavata Muni, a great sage who was present with Narada Muni and Sanat Kumar, and they discussed this during our conversation, the importance of the month of Kartik, and particularly this, the spirit of the month, the spirit of capturing Krishna in one sense, cannot be caught by anyone. In one sense, in another sense, he's captured by his devotees, which means the love of the devotees, not the rope or anything like that, or the mechanics, but the spirit of love and devotion of his devotees. So we'll sing this song, O Damodar, although you were bound to the mortar by Mother Yasoda, you mercifully liberated the son who were cursed with your own devotional service. Therefore, please also bestow your own prema bhakti, the most profuse way. I think there's a line. have the original with me. I'm doing, but I can probably find it. I don't know if I can. Yes. Yeah, I've got it here. Please bless me in the same way. I have no desire for liberation into your effulgence. So we're going to sing now. Follows. Uverat majo pada mojai vayadvat Raya muchito bhakti bhajo krito cham. All together. Uverat majo pada mojai vayadvat Raya muchito bhakti bhajo krito cham. Kuve atmajo pada mujai vayadvat Vaya muchito bhakti bhajo krito cham. Kuve atmajo pada mujai vayadvat Vaya muchito bhakti bhajo krito cham. Yata prema bhakting svakang me prayachcha Namo Shekaho mesti Dāmodarāṣṭaka Prema bhakting svakang me prayachcha Namo Shekaho mesti Dāmodarāṣṭaka Yata prema bhakting svakang me prayachcha Namo Shekaho mesti Dāmodarāṣṭaka Prema bhakting svakang me prayachcha Namo Shekaho mesti Dāmodarāṣṭaka Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Hare Jaya Rama Damadara Rama Damadara Radhe Radha Damadara Radha Jaya Radha Damadara Radha Damadara Śrī Radhe Radha Damadara Radha Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 ki jai, Dāmodarāṣṭakam ki jai, Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka ki jai, Kartik Vrata ki jai, All Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Om Jnana Tirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Guru Navaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Larita Shri Visakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Hare Krishna. We're also coming very close now to the Srila Prabhupada book marathon. Some of the devotees have already started. Some are starting maybe in a few days' time, end of Kartik. Some are starting the 1st of December. Some devotees will go 5 weeks, some 4 weeks. Whatever it is, we try to make this concerted, united effort to distribute as many of Srila Prabhupada's books as possible. And I know that in the Philippines, you are going to have Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka Prabhu was telling me you're going to make a little extra push this year to try to distribute more books during this special time in one sense, although maybe not much different in many countries, but it has a uniting effect throughout the whole of ISKCON, the whole world, in fact, when devotees all over the world perform yajna together. And we can say it will be one of Prabhupada's books distributed for sure, practically every second, 24 hours a day for a whole month, somewhere in the boys in Australia, in India, all over Asia. Across and the time, there's not a time of the day they're trying to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. We need to perform yajna, this Kali Yuga, yajna Sankirtanam Prayer. It's recommended the yajna for this Kali Yuga is Sankirtan. Sankirtan literally means congregational chanting or complete glorification of the Lord. And this, since Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj's time in particular, has been probably more than any other method of Sankirtan, the distribution of books has been emphasized as the primary method to fulfill the intention of the Lord. So we go on to today's verse. This is a little something on the book distribution, and we wish you all the best wherever you are. I'm sure everyone online can, to some degree or another, participate in this marathon. We're not, obviously, some are elderly or sick or whatever it is, but somehow or another, we try to find a way to distribute, maybe giving to others, maybe sending to others, maybe online, maybe on the street, maybe house to house, maybe whatever method it is, but somehow or another, maybe Christmas presents or something. But somewhere or another to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. And this will come up a little later in our discussion. Now we'll go on. So the translation we've already read or spoke, text number 7, that the pure devotee has no other desire for anything other than pure devotion. He has no intention. This is this verse and all the verses, in a sense, build up to an intensive lulium. Alasamai is a hankering or longing for one objective goal. So when that longing becomes intense enough, it's that this is the price. Rupa Goswami describes the price of Krishna consciousness as our intense greed to obtain it. Greed is not usually a word, let's say, connected with spiritual life, and probably quite the opposite. But in this particular case, it is favorable. Greed to obtain the goal, whatever that goal may be. The goal is to please Krishna, whatever form it may take. So that greed to become pleasing to Krishna, at least at our stage, we should try to cultivate this mood of how we can become more pleasing to the Lord. This is a form of greed, but it's a purifying form of greed, not like the mundane one. And then we could say, when one has this intention, this longing, then our longings for material objectives, greed for this material energy, material possessions, or lusting over material objects, will subside, or at least be eclipsed. As we know from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna, that to get out of this material world, we have to surrender to him. Surrender to Krishna is not, let's say, our own interpretation of what it means. One has to understand what that means, to surrender to Krishna. It's really obtained. Manushanam sahasrishu kasti jatati siddhaye. Amongst all living entities, this is the rarest thing of all. Pure devotional service is rarely obtained. It's very rarely obtained, because Krishna explains, we read in the Nectar of Devotion, that it's rarely obtained because Krishna is captured by pure devotional service. He's obligated, tied down, doesn't give himself very easily. You could say, it's like in a kingdom. I mean, it's very hard to live in a king, like with a king, but it's easy to live in a kingdom. So everything's the kingdom of God, and there are different departments within that kingdom. We may be able to live in, you can say, in some form or another of devotional connection with Krishna, but to actually capture Krishna in the full sense of the term, is very rarely obtained. Premanjana chuta bhakti vilochanena santaksadeva rizayeshu bilokayanti. It's only when our hearts are saturated with the salve of love. It's the I, but that I refers, which is probably the main topic we'll discuss today, the I within us, not the I on the face. They're both connected, and for a pure devotee, there's simultaneously no difference between the two. But for a conditioned soul, there is a difference. What we can see with our eyes is very limited. Takshri Krishna Namadina Bhavad Grayam Indra. What can we see with these mundane senses? We'll talk more about that later on, and the importance of the internal purification, in order that with the real eye, the purified spiritual eye, one may have the darshan of the Lord, as is hankered after by Satyavata Muni. So we'll move into the purport a little bit here, or the comment by Sri Sanatana Goswami. We'll mention some of his comment. It's a key feature. There's two key features, there's three, which we'll try to cover today. One is the essential nature of association and how it's related to today's verse. We've already mentioned the other one, that inner vision within one's own heart, or the ability to perceive within one's own heart. We could discuss a little bit about we've probably already done that, the fall that will come up by association as well, of course, the fall of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, and their consequent deliverance by the Lord, and the nature of that deliverance, which will come up. So I'll move in a little bit here. Yeah. So Satyavata Muni is praying for the direct. We say Shakshadari Tvenashtamashta Shastra. The pure devotees of the Lord directly coming from the Supreme Lord. They're not, let's say, aspiring devotees. They're not practicing devotees. They may practice or appear to practice for the sake of teaching us, but those are actually sakshat. They're coming from the spiritual realm into this world. They see Krishna. Krishna says, if you want to know the truth, you have to approach someone who's seen the truth. Someone who has this understanding of the ultimate Vishaya, the ultimate goal of our lives is not material elevation, it's not liberation, it's not material possessions or living a long, healthy, happy life in this world, but it's the real liberation of being re-established in one's eternal relationship or constitutional relationship with Krishna. This is the real liberation, at least for a Vaishnava. As we see in several of these verses, Satyavata Muni is totally disinterested in the normal liberation that people may be familiar with, moksha, merging into the Brahma Jyoti or something like that. This is hellish for a pure devotee. He has no interest in that. Even going to Vaikuntha for a Krishna devotee, one who has prema, has no interest. There's no of that type of prema. It does not exist in Vaikuntha. It's reverential service, Aishvarya Bhav, but this Madhurya mood of Raj does not find a place in Vaikuntha. It's not even there for the ordinary devotees of Lord Ramchandra. It may be there for Sita Devi, but she's his eternal consort. But others, no. He only accepted one wife, and he had no girlfriends. And he had no friends. Everyone's his friend, but not the form of Sakya Bhav, which we find in Braj. Madhurya, Vatsalya, parental, it's there. But again, not with the same sweetness as that of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. That is not found anywhere other than in Braj. So we'll read on a little bit here. So from the attributes of that prayerful longing for its attributes, the qualities, it's not just some repetition of a prayerful longing, which we may do. It's also recommended and it's purifying, but it's to be, let's say, embellished or accompanied with the particular attribute. What is that attribute? Is that sincere, one-pointed desire to attain the objective, not that we're praying and hoping for some miraculous descent from somewhere upon us, and at the same time we're meditating upon something separate from devotional service to Krishna. That may be a stage, beginning stage of some kind or another, but it's certainly not the mood of the pure-hearted devotees. Their longing is absolute. It's, I can't remember the Sanskrit terms, but we can see that at different stages of our devotional service, we could say there are different analogies given, not just of the plant, which starts off very weak and eventually bears fruits, but also in terms of various kinds of metals, metallic, and even in terms of steel, liquid and solids. It's said that this stage of pure devotion is like solid steel, which has impenetrable. There's nothing else. It's just pure steel, because steel is not really pure, but the analogy is like that. That it's complete. There's no gaps. There's no other. It's unalloyed steel. Prabhupada saw this sign, I think, when he arrived in Boston, unalloyed steel, and it used this as an example of pure devotional service. It has to become unalloyed. That means without any mixture, ananya bhakti. So this, even if there's not any, let's say, direct, we may not feel directly in the spiritual realm, but one is intense heart, then it's considered that this is the embellishment, this is the attribute of one's longing, is the intention and the purity of that longing, and the complete conviction within that longing, which causes or the awakens prema bhakti. It attracts Krishna's attention, and by the grace of Krishna, particularly by the grace of Radharani, they bestow upon us, first cleansing our hearts entirely in that fire of separation, and secondly, bestowing their own darshan upon the hankering or purified devotee. We'll read on a little bit, and it also demonstrates, Sanatana says, the rarity, supreme rarity of sakshat darshan. Very, very rare to get the actual. We always say when we go to the temple, I'm going to take the darshan of the Lord. I had darshan of Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka. I had darshan of Dainatai Gaura Hari. Whatever deities we may be worshipping, I had darshan of Krishna Kanaya. Wherever we are, Radha Paris, Ishwara. But what are we seeing? It's understood that the living entity is this, we usually say it's the seer, but that's within the realm of, let's say, our present life. That refers to the material energy. We're talking of a conditioned soul here. How can a conditioned soul see the all beautiful, all perfect, pure, spiritual form of the Supreme Lord? How is it possible with mundane eyes? It's not possible. Krishna says he cannot be seen by any means other than pure devotional service. Well, there's some answers to this, which we'll try to look into. So with material senses, we just heard, cannot see the Lord. So what are we seeing? We're trying to see Shastra Chakshus. There's also signs that we prayed just now, Om Jnana Timirandasya. The spiritual master opens their eyes, which are blinded by the darkness of ignorance. We see through the eyes of the spiritual master. We see through the eyes of Shastra. How do we see? When we go into the temple room, for instance, the deities are there. Whatever our impressions may be, we may be attracted for whatever reason or otherwise. But when we do, if we really want to see with the right eye at our stage of bhakti or aspiring devotion, we try to come before the deity with a respectful air, at least by paying our obeisances in the correct way. We try to come before the deities in as clean a condition as we can, with clean, neat clothes, if possible, whatever is recommended by one's spiritual authorities. We try to offer something to the Lord, be it something very small, a fruit or something. Try to make an offering to the Lord. Now, we follow the recommended, just like in Kartik, it's recommended we sing Dāmodarāṣṭakam and offer a lamp. So we do it. Whether we know more about it is another thing, but that itself means that we're starting to see Krishna in relationship to his will. This morning we're hearing from one devotee we gave class that many times people are petitioning Lord Shiva, oh, please give me this, give me that. And he said, well, he was talking to Shaivites in Kashi. He said, pray that think is good for you. And say, my Lord, please, you know what's best for me. Please give me what's best for me. We may not be so keen on that one. We may think, oh, that sounds good, but we don't know what's best for us. Like a child doesn't know what's best for the child usually. They don't usually ask, Mom, please give me what's best for me. They ask, Mom, please give me what I want. So devotees, they sometimes also have a little bit of that material mood in their prayers. But the selfless prayers of devotees, whether it's Queen Kunti or whoever it may be, who's making wonderful prayerful offerings to the Lord, petitioning him, hankering for his protection, for his association. But what really takes place when we come before the Lord, the deity, every situation, but particularly the deity, when we come into the temple, it's not that we're seeing the deity in one sense in our hearts. You can say we are seeing the Lord as revealing himself. We're seeing him, we're capturing him in our heart. Krishna is captured. When Krishna is captured within the heart, then we can capture him outside also. This capturing of, just like Bill Mangal Thakur, he was living in Vrindavan for many centuries apparently. He was physically blind, but he captured Krishna. He wouldn't let him go from his heart. He was meditating also on this form of Krishna, the baby form of Krishna tied to the mortar. That's one of his meditations. So Krishna personally came, although he was physically blind, so he couldn't with physical eyes see him when he was there in his bhajan in Vrindavan. And Krishna played games with him. He didn't know it was Krishna in one sense. He was just like a young boy playing games with this blind old man. And he was enjoying. And then he grabbed Krishna. He said, I know who you are. And he tried to grab him. Eventually he realized this is Krishna, the object of my meditation, the object of my life. He tried to grab him. Krishna escaped, wouldn't let him capture him. He said, you may escape from my grasp, but you cannot escape from my heart. I've got you tied down in my heart. So it's the heart that we have to really look at, as well as just what we see with our senses, not just the eyes, our ears, our nose, tongue, everything, what they perceive in this world. But the real thing is what's happening in our heart. What we see, what we hear, what we perceive can certainly have an effect upon us, profound effect. In fact, the heart is, in one sense, you have an overall nature, which is within that overall nature, there are numerous ritis or tiny little kind of impressions within our consciousness, which formulate an overall kind of conceptual picture of who we are and what's going on in the world. And that includes likes and dislikes, etc., etc. So to change that, the whole aspect is a change of heart, not a change of eyes or a change of ears, but a change of heart, which means the way we see things. It means what we're holding dear to us in our hearts. So if we're still holding on to mature things in our heart, then Vrindavan remains a distance. Ishaya chariya kabe shuddhabiman kabe hama maherabo Shri Vrindavanam. And Vrindavan can only be approached when our heart is pure, when it's freed of all material and desire. This is maybe a little bit, we may think that's a little bit far from me right now. So what's happening is we're approaching the deity, we're approaching devotional service under the direction of one who's seen the truth. And they can impart that knowledge to us. So they give us guidelines how to go about activities which will cause or evoke that change of heart and that purification of heart. So we do it as much as we can according to their guidelines there. And that impresses Krishna. Krishna will be pleased to see that we're following his pure devotee. And when he's pleased, then, in other words, Prabhupada said, don't try to see Krishna, act in a way that Krishna will see you. This is quite a simple but very profound statement. Many people want to see Krishna. That's not bad in one sense, but they don't want to go through the necessary sadhana or practices which give Krishna, let's say, he wants us to see him. You may not want to see somebody who's perhaps not very pleasing to you, somebody who doesn't really like you, somebody who doesn't care for you, somebody who, whatever, is just trying to exploit you. You may not want to see such a person. God's the same. Of course, he wants everyone, but he may not reveal himself to such persons because they're not really pleasing to Krishna. They want to please themselves, not Krishna. So Krishna doesn't really, he may reveal some form, like a reflective form, cheating people, kind of cheating people in one. Not really. He's reciprocating accordingly, but they think that they've got it, but they haven't got it. Krishna is not so cheap to come under our grasp or under our control. He reveals himself to the one he chooses. So there's a very significant point which comes up very shortly. I'll move on a little bit here. The agony of a devotee. This is called anutapa. is the materialist also has agony when he doesn't have his desires fulfilled. He hankers for them. His whole life may be practically hijacked by unfulfilled material desire, to the point that people sometimes give up their lives. Well, a devotee may also have that kind of a feeling. What's the use of this life if I can't see Krishna, or if I can't serve Krishna? Krishna, this is a hankering, although we're not demanding, so to speak, but desiring, sincere desire. What does it mean to see Krishna? It means, when will that day come when my heart is just saturated in love for Krishna? When will that day come? Instead of all these other desires which I'm embracing still, and these other attractions which I like. Self-centered perception. How can we see Krishna? When we're free of that, usually we call that ahankara, seeing ourselves in the center. We have to be free of that in order for Krishna to reveal himself. Even if he stands there, we won't see him. When Krishna was present, who really saw Krishna? Not many. They saw him from a mundane perspective. Only a few pure devotees of the Lord could really see Krishna. He reveals some form, but they don't see him as he is. Some purification may be there, but it'll take a long time. This external vision. The internal vision is the secret of seeing, even with the external eyes. And when we go before the deity, what really it is that Krishna is seeing us. He's seeing us. When we try to follow the system given by him, then he's pleased. Then he's happy to reveal himself. So the beginning stages, we're just trying to do things the way that he, through his scriptures, through his pure devotees, are telling us or showing us how to do it. And this attracts Krishna. He's very happy. When a little child starts to walk, the child is falling over, but he's trying with the guidance of its parents, who are very happy to see those first baby steps. So Krishna is very happy to see that we're trying to perform our service according to the regulations, according to the guidelines of the pure devotees, etc., that he will bestow his mercy upon us, whether we think like that or not. How his mercy comes is another thing. It may not always come in the way we would interpret what that means. It may come sometimes by frustrating our endeavors if they're unfavorable to devotional service. It may come by taking away certain things which we thought were mine, or which we were somewhat dependent upon. It may come sometimes by placing us in association of persons who may not be quite what our conditioned life likes to be with, or who to be with, etc. For various reasons, to help release us from our anchors in this material. We've got our anchors in this material world. We're still attached to the objects of this material world, and as and until we really taste a higher taste, then it's very hard to give up these lower tastes. We all know that, how hard it is to give up sense gratification. Maybe our devotional is not so one-pointed, not so focused, not so clearly focused on one objective goal. We have many goals. We're still Bahushaki in Anta's chair. Intelligence is looking for many forms of pleasure. It's not that vyavasayapikabudhir type of mentality, which is very rare, extremely rare, as Krishna says. But what is even more rare in one sense is the key feature of this verse. And let's see when we come to that. Picture, let's see. Yes, Krishna, we mentioned last week Krishna's characteristic of Bhaktavatsal. This is the key characteristic in all these verses, in one sense, is the reciprocation of the Lord, that he loves his devotees. And particularly, he loves if we're not on that platform of being in that category of a pure devotee who lives 100% only existing for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna loves it when someone tries to serve such a devotee. That's how, in this particular case with Nalakuvara and Manigriva, what qualification did they have for Krishna Prema? Well, Prema Bhakti. What qualification? It doesn't look like they had any qualification. They were licentious demigods. Sex, interest in sex, intoxication, gambling, sense gratification. What qualification did they have? Well, I don't know. You can go back in the history of their, probably in the Harivamsa or some other Purana, one would find our personal histories of these two. They come up regularly, of course. Manigriva, Kuvar, even in Ramlila, they're ordinary living entities by any means, the sons of Kuvera. And they do have a very significant part of every Bhagavatamrita. What's the name? Madhukanta, Snigdhakanta. It said that they are actually these Manigriva and Nalakuvara, apparently. So whatever it is, they're not ordinary people, but they're behaving in this way for some reason or another, whether they're conditioned so, or whether they're just playing a part, whatever it is. They don't appear to have any qualification at all for Prema Bhakti. Demigods, what do they have about Prema Bhakti? They may be Sakama Bhaktas, they may be worshipping Krishna, but their attachments are there and they're reverentially, they may worship the Lord, but where's the prema? There's no real prema, unabashed, free love, loving exchange is not really there in their mood, even though Brahma doesn't have that mood. So what to speak of Nalakuvara Manigriva, what was their good fortune was actually where good fortune arises. And the actual cause of bhakti is not really all the various activities one performs in religious practices, sadhanas, and so on. But bhakti comes from bhakti. So by the causeless mercy, it comes from causeless mercy. It's awoken by causeless mercy. It's already there. Krishna Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadhikabana, it's in the heart of every living entity. But it's awoken by a very important factor, causeless factor, the association of a pure devotee. This is the key feature, in one sense, of this verse, in regards to Nalakuvara Manigriva particularly, is the opportunity. Now, association with a pure devotee, we've already heard one aspect of that. Follow their process, the process they give, whereby Krishna becomes pleased. And when Krishna is pleased with someone, he becomes captured. This is how we tie the Lord. He's not tied by some force, and certainly not by demand. Many people demand, show me God, if he exists. He's not interested in that type of approach. He's not interested. He may reciprocate in various ways. Give me this, give me that. Or those who don't even accept his personality as an eternal feature of the absolute, they can merge into the Brahma Jyoti if they're lucky, very lucky. Those who see him as an order supplier but follow religious practices may go to heaven, and so on. He reciprocates according. Those who are in reverential worship, and that's it for them. That's the way they see themselves. If they become pure, may enter Vaikuntha. But to tie up Krishna, to tie him up, sometimes people say we're the son of God, which is correct. Krishna himself says everyone is the father of all living entities. So we're all his sons or daughters, whatever. These days you've got to be careful what you say. We're all his progeny, so to speak. But we can't. People in general can't understand how can this be Madhya Soda binding up God? What is this nonsense? They say, God, the Supreme Lord, we have to bow down to him. Otherwise, we'll get sent to hell or something. What is this? What type of religious philosophy is this? This is some nonsense. But we realize a devotee, it's actually, Krishna is much more pleased with the loving devotion of Mother Yasoda than all the reverential worship of all the demigods, devas, and all put together, etc. Much more pleased, not to decry that type of it is a necessary stage. Prabhupada said we're worshipping Radha Krishna more or less in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, all rule. to do it. It pleases Krishna, and Krishna then with the senses, which and they became trees. But before they begged him for forgiveness and asked him, please, please, please be merciful to us. So he said, all right, after a long time of thousands of years as trees, you'll be very fortunate because Nanda Maharaj will be living in that area where you will eventually reside, in that area where you'll become twin Arjuna trees. He'll reside in that area, and you will be delivered from this horrible situation by Krishna himself, who will appear there in that village. He will deliver you. And then the story goes on, of course, how Krishna poured the mortar. It was tied up by Mother Yasoda's love, which we've already heard about. And Krishna pulled the mortar in between the trees, and boom, an enormous crack. That's like a thunderbolt could be heard all over Braj, as the trees crashed to the ground, huge trees. But Krishna was completely unharmed. In fact, out of the trees came Nalakuvara and Manigriva, who then offered prayers to the Lord. We'll hear some of those in a minute. So this is going on. But the key feature of this whole pastime is really the association of the devotees. And why? Because Krishna has unlimited affection for his pure devotees. And if the pure devotee wants the deliverance of something, there is nothing Krishna can do to stop that. He can't stop it unless he has to fulfill. He's obligated. He's tied up by his devotees' love, who control Krishna. This is inconceivable to the ordinary religionist. What to speak of the atheist? It doesn't even enter their subject matter. But he's controlled. The devotee becomes the controller of God. And we're not on that level. We serve those who have, let's say, captured Krishna in their heart of hearts. And by serving them, acting in the way they recommend, gradually our inner eye, our inner consciousness can become purified. So we start to see things properly. We see things now with a material veneer in everything we do, likes and dislikes, etc. Duality. Freed of duality. This is by the grace of Narada Muni. These two personalities were blessed. He said that you will be delivered by Krishna after many thousands of years. Well, that's a really, we may think, oh gosh, thousands of years, but that's so fortunate. Great devotees, they pray if somehow or another, if after just like, was it Mukunda or Govinda? I can't remember. I think Mukunda, one of Lord Chaitanya's associates who was flirting a little bit with Mayavadis, family obligations, you could say, that some of his family were Mayavadi, and he would go to their programs and so on. So Lord Chaitanya found out, and he was very angry and said, I'll never see that rascal Mukunda I don't want to see him again. Tell him not to come near me. So the news went to Mukunda, and he was devastated, of course. He was rolling in tears that he wouldn't be able to see his Lord again, and so on and so forth. And Lord Chaitanya, he asked some of the devotees, Mukunda asked, will it ever be possible for me to again see my Lord? So the devotees asked him, and they said to Lord Chaitanya, oh, Mukunda is a really good devotee. Lord Chaitanya, oh, Mahaprabhu, please be merciful. You could tell that rascal, I will not see him for 10 million births, 10 million years, maybe, something like that. Wow. They went back to Mukunda and told him, and he said, oh, wonderful, how merciful is my Lord. After only 10 million years, I'll be able to see him again. I don't think we would see it quite the same way. Probably not. We would be really, oh God, I'm going to become a Christian. I'm going to go somewhere else. This is terrible, like such a horrible. But it's not so much that's immediately Lord Chaitanya said when they told Mukunda, when the devotees told Lord Chaitanya what he said, Lord Chaitanya said, bring him here right away, right this second. He's testing the actual attributes of our devotion, the nature of our devotion. And he reveals, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Yad yadacharati shrestasa. So that association of devotees is really the key, because they are the carriers of bhakti. Bhakti can only come as fire, can only come from fire. Potentiality for fire. Let's take wood, for instance. Generally speaking, the potentiality is within the wood. You can't see it. It's not actually manifested. It's hidden. So love or devotion is within everyone's conscious, deep in our heart. We usually say heart, but deep within our very consciousness is love for Krishna, being perverted in this world to love for matter. So that's fire. We take the example of fire. You may have a nice piece of wood, but there's no fire. It comes out of the wood when that wood comes in contact with fire. Maybe another piece of wood, which is a blaze or some kind of fire. When it comes into contact with that fire, then the wood, the dull wood, the dead wood may burn. So we're like dead wood. But when we come in contact with a blazing fire, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, when we come into contact with that blazing fire, then that fire of devotion can also ignite the fire of devotion within our hearts. That's why association is so essential, so important, in order to keep our fire going. When we're out of the association of devotees, the fire can easily be extinguished. When we're alone in the association of non-practicing personalities, materialistic persons, whatever little flame of bhakti we have can be easily extinguished. Therefore, association of devotees, even if it's not of the topmost class, is still essential. Prabhupada said, one who thinks they can become Krishna conscious outside of the association of the devotees is in a big hallucination. Big illusion. Because our creeper will eventually extinguish. Even if there's a pretty strong fire to begin with, it will go out. But in association of devotees, it can continue to burn and take us all the way back to Goddess. Atamba Sangam Mamavir Sangvido Bhavanti Karna Sanakata. Association devotees, topics concerning Krishna are very relishable to the heart and to the ear. But first the heart. And the heart has to, through the ear, it enters the heart, but the ear itself is not really, the whole impression is within the heart, within our minds. The mind has to change of heart, not change of senses, change of heart. The senses are, because they're instruments to help evoke that change of heart, but they're not the cause of it. They're just instruments. The cause is association, it's the desire of the living entity, the mercy of Krishna, and the good fortune. He's there. That good fortune is someone other. We come into a situation where through our senses, pictures of Krishna or remembrance of Krishna is evoked. And when that's there, Krishna is very, very pleased. And he starts to cleanse our heart of anything which causes obfuscates our vision of him or our devotion towards him. Purify. We'll mention a few when we see the unseeable, the inconceivable, the unlimited. We're tiny, but Bhakta-Vatsala, he's very, very kind to his devotees and very kind to those who serve his devotees. And then he gives Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pratipurvam. He gives us the understanding by which we can come to him. A very most key feature of the Lord is his Bhakta Vatsalya, this mood of love which he expresses, which makes everything possible for his devotees. I'm just going to read some verses now from the 10th canto in relationship to this pastime. Just the English, text 25 of the 10th canto, 10th chapter. The purport is that Krishna is bound by the love of Narada. This is his quality of Bhakta Vatsal. One is able to come to darshan of the Lord by Kausal's mercy. Krishna is bound by Narada's love and obligated to reciprocate with him. That's not the verse itself, by the way, that's a bit of a purport. The verse itself goes like this. Although these two young men are the sons of the very rich nothing to do with them. They've are face to face with the Lord when it's delivered. And that applies to everyone, by the way. It just takes a long time when someone's, let's say, attitude, one's just take time. Page. And it eventually, just like anyone in the name it, eternally blessed. There's supreme form. We are always servants. This is next text 37. We are always servants of your servants, especially of Narada Muni. Now give us permission to leave for our home. It is by the grace and mercy of Narada we have been able to see you. Somebody, big man. You generally got to go through somebody. You can't just walk into their office. You got to know somebody who knows them, who will introduce you. Oh, I have a very close friend I'd like you to meet. Can you please see him? You can't just walk straight in there. If you know somebody who knows them, or you know the secretary or whatever, you might be able to get their darshan, or darshan. You may be able to see them face to face. Krishna is non-different. It's through his pure devotee who introduced, just like Mukunda, another Mukunda that introduced Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik Vijayaniti, through somebody who knows them. We can't approach God only through somebody who knows God. That's the only method. So the interesting thing is that they also became purified. When Narada Muni cursed them, they came to their senses, they became purified. They declaring here, we are the eternal servants, basically speaking of Narada Muni. We are always servants to your servants, especially Narada Muni. So they became purified even of that misconceptions. Even before, even as trees, they were becoming purified also. They were in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj for a long time, becoming pure, witnessing Krishna's baby pastimes also. The curve of purity is a blessing. It looked like it's a real blessing. May all describe your pastimes. This is again same Naraka Ramana. May all our words describe your pastimes. May our ears engage in all reception of your glories. See, their inner hearts become purified by the grace of Narada. May our legs and other senses engage in actions pleasing to you. Same thing, pleasing to Krishna. And may our words always think of your lotus. May our minds may our heads obey, but it's devotion big from you to see the devotee action. Oh, Palam Tradisha Gata Sangam. Vinoplam, Dr. Sangha, I can't remember the whole verse. To always see the body, to touch the body of the Lord is very rare. Get the chance to serve them, to see them, everything. This is the perfection of my eyes, the perfection of my body, the perfection of my life is to get that association of devotees. So there's just some verses. One last one we read here, verse that is. O Nalakuvar Manigriva, now you may both return home. This is to them. There was some question. Wait a minute. And that their body, word, minds, everything be fully engaged. Even if you're a demigod, you can be a pure devotee of the Lord. So any situation we're in, one can be in pure Krishna consciousness. Oh, no. I think you lost me. Did you lose me for a while?
Yes, Maharaj.
How long? How long?
Just a few seconds.
Pardon? Somebody answer? Anybody unmute? None?
Few
Few what?
seconds, Marge.
Oh, not too
Few
long. Huh?
seconds.
Okay. So I don't know if
Yes,
what
Marge.
happened. Seconds. Somewhere we lost the line. I don't know. I don't think I said it. I'm just saying there's so many more points to this subject matter. It's unlimited, but I don't think we have any more time because it's already 10 after, well, whatever the hour is here. It's 12, it might be whatever, 6 or 7 there. I don't know in the Philippines. So I'm going to finish there. Are there any questions anyone like to ask?
Hare Krishna, Ananda, Goswami Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Who's speaking?
This is Bhaktadan from the
Oh,
Philippines.
back to Dan. Hare Krishna, Dan.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your lecture, Maharaj. Although it started with you saying that pure devotional service is rarely obtained, there's a path so that we can follow, so that we can somehow capture Krishna in our heart. And that's through the essential nature of association, as you said. And I have maybe 2 questions. The first one is, how do we develop a greater attachment towards following the instructions of Krishna's devotees and also following the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam? And then that's the first question. Yeah. And then the second question is, how do we, like, example for me, I have family that who are non-devotees. How do we explain to non-devotees that this is what we want to do to center our life and although they don't have the knowledge of what we have as practicing devotees.
And relevant, clear questions. The first point, how do we develop more of a determination, an attraction, whatever, to following the path, the instructions of Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, how to develop that determination, or increase that determination. How do we develop a film? Nowadays, I guess you don't. They're all digital, but you probably have still got cameras with films inside them. How do you develop that film? That would be a question. Of course, you can't really answer it because you're muted online. But they were developed in dark rooms. A picture is taken on the film lens, an image is taken on the lens. It's a negative image. It doesn't have any particular attractivity to it, but it is nonetheless an image which is not manifested in its proper form. And it's developed in a certain situation. Now, materially speaking, it's developed in a dark room. And in the dark room, whatever they are, the photo expert, then by various mixtures with various chemicals, he produces a positive photograph, which we treasure. If he just gives you back your negative film with nothing on it and says, sorry, that's all I can do, there's nothing there, we'll be disappointed. We're expecting a nice photograph from our pictures. So it's association. Now, it's not just association. We can give an example here of a lotus flower. Now, you do have lotus flowers in India, in Malaysia, in Philippines, and so on. They grow in many places there. You have seen them probably many times. They have certain characteristics which are perhaps quite unique to themselves. One of those characteristics, of course, they grow in water, which itself for a flower is quite rare. Secondly, they have stems, which are quite long, and they kind of dip like this. So the water goes up or down, the lotus doesn't go under the water. It sits on top of the water, above the water. Lotus, above the water. That's why lotus feet, above the material energy. And not under the modes of nature. Lotus is not under the water, it's above the water. So then, lotus is there. It's connected to the mud in the bottom of the and there are certain features here which are given as examples. Now, for that lotus to blossom, there are certain things which are required. And these are comparative, we can say, to our devotional service. First of all, there has to be some connection. The connection is through the stem to the ground. That's the parampara. There has to be a proper connection. If the proper connection is there, the energy will not come, no matter what you do. It must be connected, absolutely necessary. The second thing, there has to be some kind of, let's say, nourishment of some kind or another kind. The sun, generally speaking, the whole universe depends upon the sun. The blossoming of the lotus depends, if it's a day lotus, that is, depends upon the sun. Without the sun, it will not open up. It will not blossom. The sun is like Krishna. Unless Krishna is regularly in our day, we will not blossom. If we're not chanting nicely, if we're not hearing at all, if we're watching all kinds of un-Krishna conscious topics associated with un-Krishna conscious things, it will be very difficult for that Krishna lotus to open up, or our bhakti to open up. So that's what? That's three things. Oh, the ground. Connection with the Guru. There's got to be a Krishna in the center. The practice of devotional service has to be there. And the fourth point, or the third, whichever way we look at it, the lotus also has to have association. The association for lotus is the water. It would dry up without the water. It will, even the sun is there, the roots are there, the stem is there, the earth is there, it's connected, the sun is shining. All that will not work. Without the water or the sadhu sangha, the association of devotees, the lotus will not blossom. It will simply dry up and die. So without the association of devotees, our devotional creepers will not blossom. They will not, even if the deity is there, Krishna is there, you're chanting, you're doing things, all you could say good, and eventually it will bear fruit, but it may dry up in the meantime. We may not have the enthusiasm. The enthusiasm primarily comes by association. By associating with a drunkard, you become a drunkard. By associating with someone who's enthusiastic, if you want, that is, you can become enthusiastic. It's by association of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a non-inseparable feature of bhakti. So it's by association of those who are enthusiastic. Now you may pray for it. It's also there if you're sincere. For whatever reason, you may not have so much association. You can pray for that determination. This is a common prayer of devotees, to engage in your service. So you can pray, you should read. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, if you hear about, it's again a form of association, you hear about great devotees like Narada Muni, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan, Haridas Thakur, Prabhupada. You read about great devotees. This can kindle your determination, your enthusiasm, your seriousness about the practice. He says specifically, hearing about the pastimes and the teachings of pure devotees of the Lord strengthens our confidence, our determination, and it gives us a taste for devotion. Where the taste can develop in the association of devotees. So association is most essential and ultimately is the mercy of Krishna. But in the association of devotees is the recommended means to churn the determination to follow the process to achieve the goal. Association. And prayer should be accompanied with it. Of course, your own desire has to be there. You have to make the effort. It's like, well, there's a nice example one devotee gave in class the other day. I've forgotten the exact terms. So we have the example of the mother of a monkey. The monkey has to hold on to the mother. Hold on, all by their own endeavor. Some people think that going back to Godhead is your own endeavor. It's not entirely. Endeavor must be there. It's not entirely. Some people think going back to God is all Krishna's mercy. Just like, for instance, the kitten carried in the mouth of the cat. The kitten does nothing. The cat picks the kitten up and carries the kitten. Cat does nothing. Completely dependent upon the mother. That's another angle, but neither are correct. The correct thing is we see with Mother Yasoda how she bound Krishna. She was determined, but she could not achieve her goal without the mercy of Krishna. So a devotee doesn't think, oh, by my work alone it's going to work, or just say, oh, I don't need to do anything, I'll just depend upon Krishna. They're two extremes. A devotee just does their service, in the right sense of the term of doing one's service, and depends on Krishna at the same time. Both are going on. We're in the devotees like in the middle, accepting both sides in one sense, but not going one way or the other particularly. So depending on Krishna, praying to Krishna, not feeling oneself eligible, feeling I have no devotion. These are normal, you could say, of at least a devotee who's a little mature in Krishna consciousness. On the other side, that doesn't mean therefore I don't even bother. If Krishna wants me to go back to Godhead, or if he wants me to develop devotional enthusiasm, then he'll give it to me. No, it's not like that. We have to both, of course, ultimately depending on Krishna, but we have to make our effort also. Endeavor and pray, Prabhupada said one time. Endeavor and pray. So we've got the mercy. Another example in that regards is like a well. The example of a well. And maybe you've seen somebody fall in a well. I did one time see someone who'd fall into a well. And comes along. Okay, help, save me. So they throw a rope down. That's not enough. The mercy has come. You have the mercy. You have to take it. And what can you do? What can the person who throws the rope down do about that? You, if you're drowning in a well, have to hold onto that rope. That's the main thing. It may not be easy, but you have to hold on to that rope. Don't let go. Don't let go. And eventually you'll be pulled out of the well. Don't let go. So, yeah, this is kind of example. So the mercy comes down, but you have to make your effort to hold on to that mercy. But if you have to know what the mercy is, hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on, you have to hold on to it. Don't let go. Try to hear more from the pure sources, and try to avoid hearing and indulging in things which cover our consciousness and destroy our enthusiasm. As a grihasta, as a working man, there's inevitably, it's related to the second question, inevitably an overlap here. So all the more why Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave his grihasta disciples 64 rounds a day. He didn't ask his sannyas disciples to chant 64 rounds. That was specifically for the grihastas, so that they would be protected more. The sannyasis are already 100% engaged, at least they should be. Grihastas have other duties with family work and so on. So chanting more and more so they don't waste time, they don't indulge in sense enjoyment more than necessary, etc. Never can finish your rounds. That's an extreme example, but the principle is there. In Grihasta life, the risk is there. We're associating with Maya in many ways. So to protect us, we should chant more and more and more and more. Hear and chant more. Otherwise, we'll become very weak. And then the other lazy side is we think that someone's going to save us. Someone's going to help us. Maharaj, please save me. Oh, please help me, Prabhu. Yeah, okay, but you've got to help yourself. Just do it. You've got to chant. You've got to hear. So maybe you need help to do that. But ultimately, we have to do it. Association is the help. It's meant to be anyway. But we come into the association devotees and we hear and chant. And of course, if devotees, back to the original point of the verse, if the devotee is if we're very fortunate, the devotee may really have an attachment to you. And if they're really a pure devotee of the Lord, their affection, just like Vidura's affection for Dhritarashtra, may be so strong that that affection will eventually deliver the person, even though they have no intentions and no qualifications. The affection or the good wishes of a pure devotee, the blessings, we could say. And the second one, with people in general, one's family members were not really interested. How do we present this in a way which seems to them of any significant relevance? It is a bit difficult, and it's a fact. So you can't always come on straight. In fact, most cases you can't. I know when I stopped preaching to my parents, they started to become favorable. It was funny. You think it would be the other way around, but it wasn't. You can't, you've got a time, place, and circumstance. They're certainly not ready for practicing devotional service. Well, they weren't. They're not in their body for a long time, but they were not ready. So what to do? When I stopped trying to preach to them and start trying to appreciate them and show by example, giving things which they could take, like prasadam, they started becoming favorable, or let's say at least friendly, supportive to some extent. So you have to see what works. Like a doctor, you have to see what works for the various types of patients he's treating. So with Bhakti, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said when he went to the house of the Brahmana in Mathura on his way to Vrindavan, he said that religious principles are established by the behavior of a devotee. So one of the key features is how you behave. Are you behaving callous? Are you behaving like, something not representative of our so-called teachings? Are you behaving like a gentleman, etc.? When people see the behavior of the devotees, it impresses them. The devotees are kind, they're gentle, they're polite, and so on and so forth. And when people see that, that impresses them, even if they don't know nothing about the philosophy. Many times people say that. I don't know anything about your philosophy, but I really like the devotees. I really like that so-and-so. They're such a nice person. We hear that regularly. So that helps bring people towards Krishna consciousness. That's one thing. Somehow or another, don't try necessarily to change people. we can try to add something to life, or we can show respect to their God-given gifts. For instance, somebody is as an artist. We had one artist came to our temple recently. He painted beautiful pictures of Prabhupada and the castle in New Mayapur. Beautiful. They're now being sold all over the place. And he has nothing directly to do with devotional service. He just likes art, and he has his family member as a devotee. So they came to the temple to visit, and they do art. So they just painted while they were there. We never preached them to, give up what you're doing and surrender. But now they're doing great service. Their paintings have now been put in postcards and pictures and things, and being sold and distributed all over the world, in fact. Different ways, maybe musicians, Prabhupada engaged sometimes musicians in accompanying him or whatever. We have to see people for where they're at and recognize their somewhat quality or expertise and try to inspire them to engage that in Krishna service, not to say, oh, this is all Maya, give all this up and surrender. That will definitely not work in 99.9% cases. There may be rare exception, but not many. Seeing where they're at and connecting that with Krishna, this is the secret. Now, if nothing else is there, we can at least, and this is not at least actually, it's probably one of the most significant, we give them some form of prasada, which is digestible. In other words, if you entertain a Bengali in your home and you don't give him any rice, they will never come back again. Never, without rice. And I think Filipinos also like their rice. Malays, Indonesians, the whole part of the world really likes their rice. You've got to give them rice. And if you give a European, especially Germans, maybe French, a meal and there's no bread and no butter and no wine and no this and no that, they won't come back again. And it's like, to them, that's like torture if they don't have these staple foods, So it's finding out a way that you can somehow or another make them feel happy with Krishna in there, It depends on time and circumstance. Sometimes people are so inimical, there's not much you do. There's energy that they connected and to We're back again. We got disconnected. That sometimes happens in devotional service. We come back again. Sometimes we drift off, sometimes we fall down, sometimes we doubt. We come back again. Don't give up. Try to keep that connection there. Sometimes, even if there is a bit of a break, don't give up. Keep that hold on. Prabhupada said to my devotee, I'll take you back to Godhead. So okay, we're going to finish there because it's really late and we have many things to do. We got back from a program about 11 o'clock almost last night and we're pretty tired. So I'm going to finish off there. Tomorrow we'll carry on. And we wish you all the very best, everyone. Thank you for your time and association.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Spent too much today.
I'll try to apply everything that you said.
I wish I could also. We speak a lot of words, but we don't even apply it ourselves most of the time. Huh? It's easier said than done, as they say. But what to do? Hare Krishna. All glories to all of you, and thank you, Śrī Dām, for hosting us and devoting Braj. And we wish you I'll try to write a little something in the next few days. I'm up to my neck. We have hardly a spare moment trying to prepare for the marathon right now. It's all happening at once here. We're starting on Tuesday. Those are coming and going. We're going to clean the temple and get 2 tons of books arrived yesterday. We had to unload, and 4,000 Gitas, dozens of Bhagavatam sets and thousands of other books. So we better get cracking. And Hare Krishna. It's
Thank you,
exciting.
Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we
Take
we
rest,
also-
Raj.
big book scores. I got no time to rest. Big book scores in Philippines this year, okay? You want to see Philippines back on the map of book list. All right. Challenging. I want you to challenge India, okay, this year. They only do about 2.5 million books in India. You can beat that easily. There's over 100 million people in Philippines. One book per person, that's 100 million books. Easy work. Anyway, do the best. You know what? I had where did I get a letter? A letter from one devotee in Israel today. Their book distributor. I kind of didn't meet them till this nice devotee, French by birth, but they're Israeli French. They're taxi driver. They distribute books in their taxi. Every he won't let them out of place, but what to do? He's still going strong. And he said he picks up so many Filipinos in his car, and they all take books. Yeah. And he said, if only I had books in Tagalog. He wrote to me, he said, if only I had books in Tagalog. They're all asking for books in Tagalog, local language in Philippines. He was asking if we have any books. I haven't answered him yet, but I know we don't really. We have a magazine or two maybe, but no real books. So please try to get some books printed in Tagalog. Okay? Then
Yes, Raj.
Our book distributor in Tel Aviv will be happy and distribute books to all the Filipinos in Tel Aviv. Okay? Hare Krishna. Hare Bol, everybody. Do what you can to distribute Prabhupada's book. Read three things. Read the books. Try to apply what you read, and try to distribute it to others. If we apply what we hear properly, relevantly, we'll be more enthusiastic to give it to others. Because you'll feel the results. You'll feel the results. You're associating with Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, if you want to know me, read my books. If you want to associate with me, read my books. If you want to feel the ecstasy, read my books. Because all those things are there in Prabhupada's books. But it's recommended we read in the association of devotees. You can read alone, but I mean, especially in the association of devotees. It's very potent, very purifying. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Go Śrīla Prabhupada, Śrī Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭaka ki jai. Go Premanandi, Hare Bol.
Jai.
Hare Bol.